It's like, well, now that you've had these experiences and you start to realize, okay, this is not a weekend retreat kind of thing. This is not a flight of the fancy thing. And frankly, so many people are having these experiences, you're not that special. I woke up, it's like, okay, I guess, this is a global dynamic.
Right.
I'm starting to see a lot of people, a lot of my friends, and when you get into it and you have this conversation, you realize many people, before you have had these experiences, and many people will can continue to have them after you have.
Right.
So you're not that special. I'm not that special.
You're
well,
right.
then it's like, okay.
Get off your...
You know what they say? Before the Enlightenment, chop wood and carry water, and after the Enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. So as someone who's not independently wealthy, I had to chop wood and carry water.
Yes.
You have to ultimately find something that's going to put bread on your table,
right.
Not be a burden to society or your family or your friends. You have to do something constructive and that you're interested in. So that took me back to where I started. I had to go full circle. It's like, okay, now that I've had these small set of experiences and it has changed me.
Yeah.
It has given me a new lease on life. But then, so you got to go back to something that you care about doing, that you find worthwhile.
Sure.
And so it just became very clear during that introspection period that what I'm doing now is really what I really care about doing. Something I care passionately about.
Yeah.
It's a very honest representation of my values, my life experiences, and what I want to contribute. Kind of my core message.
So it sounds like you got clear on the what. The what is still entertainment. I'm curious whether or not, and if so, how the how changed. How you went about producing entertainment from before this journey and after. How would you say the way in which you go about producing, developing, leading your company now differs from before?
Well, I think before it used to be, I would think this is probably a general point of view on life difference. Whereas before, I would say the first instinct about doing something is you go look outward. You look outwards, right? You look outside of yourself. What's outside of me that I need to get a hold of,
that I can get,
what I can get, or who do I have to call? What do I have to do? And, the dynamic is a little bit different. It's very, very different. So the arrow is always pointing inwards.
I see.
So looking inwards or staying in tune with my feelings or what my inspirations are. I would say that's been a big.
So it sounds like there's a lot more awareness in the practice of being with yourself, having kind of let go and shed those layers, have allowed you to get really familiar and in tune with what's happening in here.
And also that is the, this mystery of inside me, inside you, inside everybody is like the genesis of what happens outwards.
Yes.
So that's been a very powerful, I think, maybe a rearrangement, a different sequence of events maybe. But I'm still me.
Sure.
We're talking together 15 years later and it's still
two of us.
Charlie,
Exactly. So I'd love to hear about the projects that you've developed and how you feel as though this journey, this inner journey, has affected the outer journey of these entertainment projects.
It's an interesting question. I mean, it's still in evolution now.
Yes.
It's still in evolution now because I think a lot of people share this vision for telling stories that I think the word is transformational. That truly characterize this journey, but we've all had very different journeys. And it's a matter of dialing it up or dialing it down, finding that comfortable range.
Right.
That you can effectively engage that and still engage an audience.
Sure.
And at a very, very basic level, engage enough of an audience to sustain the economic basis of the project. So I think I'm really coming to terms with deciding not on a project to project basis. Like I made I'm very clear about the budgets that I want to play at.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to. We're developing projects for a more mainstream audience.
Mm-hmm.
So this means that our budgets have to necessitate
Sure. Bigger.
signing on bigger budgets,
Mm-hmm.
etc., which inevitably means that this cannot be the Bible.
Right.
You know, this cannot be the Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
This cannot be a meditation conference.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, you would go watch a documentary film.
Sure.
So finding a comfortable range that I want to make the contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the biggest things that I'm focused on this year is all things related to Shaolin.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that really, really rings true to me for a variety of reasons. One, Shaolin started, or the phenomena of Shaolin as we know it today, I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
I studied with an Indian teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living here in America. My father taught me a lot about martial arts cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that genre, so there's a lot of things going in there for me. So for starters, I went to India. Bodhidharma, the Indian monk, went from 1500 years ago, traveled from India to China. And he came together with the Shaolin monks, and together they created, the Shaolin systems of martial arts and meditation and practice that's given off Zen Buddhism and Eastern martial arts that's really evolved into a global phenomenon.
I never knew that.
Of martial arts cinema.
So Bodhidharma,
an Indian monk,
traveled to China.
Traveled to China.
And engaged with the Shaolin monks.
Engaged with the Shaolin monks. And he came in and saw the Shaolin monks were meditating
Mm-hmm.
for long, long hours.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that their physical bodies, they were in denial of their physical bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they tried to overcome it, but he engaged them in a different way, through the way of yoga, of physical yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So engage them in a physical yoga practice that would integrate the meditative state from a physical state into a movement state.
I see.
So he had a very profound realization,
Mm-hmm.
and that legend spread and spread and spread,
Mm.
and the Shaolin institution has been around for 1500 years, so it's known as the birthplace of martial arts,
Mhm.
Eastern martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Karate, Aikido,
Mm-hmm.
Judo,
Mm-hmm.
Taekwondo,
Mhm.
all comes from Shaolin.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to the founders of these martial arts, they'll tell you, we just took one or two Shaolin forms and have
evolved them.
evolved them from Shaolin.
Wow.
So I've had the privilege of being appointed kind of as the developer
Mm-hmm.
and producer for this 1500-year-old institution that
Mhm.
spawned off hundreds of hours of television programming,
Mm-hmm.
movies, pop culture. So when you look at things like, for instance, The Last Airbender,
Yes.
or Kung Fu Showdown,
Mm-hmm.
or the David Carradine show Kung Fu
Right.
from the 70s,
Right.
to Shaolin soccer. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on. So it's incredibly fortuitous that now I'm developing content,
Mm-hmm.
games, movies, live events,
Mm-hmm.
publishing, comics,
Mm-hmm.
based around kind of this cultural icon, this cultural institution that has really much to share with the world. So it is martial arts. It's also incredibly pop culture.
Yes.
And it's also it's a very advanced, amazing, but accessible form of spirituality.
Right.
That is about the Indian and the Chinese, the twin dragons coming together and then taking it to the world. So I just love these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I never knew
Yeah.
that about the roots of Shaolin.
So the roots of Shaolin, I'm very focused on this year, and we have multiple franchises.
Mm-hmm.
Taking those kind of characters into the world of, say, Heroes,
Mm-hmm.
or 24,
Right.
taking it to animation, taking it to toys,
Mm-hmm.
taking kind of these repetitive patterns
Mm-hmm.
that do evolve consciousness into online gameplay.
Right. 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 Right.
So it's a big part of what we're doing,
I see.
at least for this year. And of course other projects come, and I'm also I was very, very wedded to the idea that the form of what I did, it's always like monks or somebody who's the
Uh-huh.
spiritual master or this or that. And I'm slowly I'm opening to the idea that spirituality is a very daily thing. It doesn't have to involve over-the-top characters.
Right, right.
It doesn't have to involve religious or ostensibly spiritual scenarios, knowing that we are all spiritual beings. We're all spiritual no matter what we do.
Sure, sure.
And being okay with things that don't necessarily overtly engage. Just trusting that as long as my mind and heart, my practice continues, I'll be able to infuse that kind of energy no matter what I do.